All right, so let's talk about the Unreal Mesh export. So this is the way that you export and sync static meshes. I have the static mesh here that I want to send over to Unreal. And one of the first things you need to do is you make sure that your project directory is set inside of USync main. Mine is. Perfect. Now let's go down to the Unreal Mesh export. And the only thing you need to do is hit this plus button, and you've added it. And the other kind of nice thing about this now is that, let's say I had a bunch of like objects, right? And I add this one, I add this one, I add this one. Let's say I'm done working with these ones and I'm just updating this one. I can actually exclude it from exporting right here. And, that's pretty cool because now I don't have to like export all of them every time to sync. And there's a couple different options down here. There's set all to FBX or set to GLB. I personally prefer the FBX, but the issue with FBX is it doesn't have a very good material rebuilding. So you have to reconnect some textures to your materials, while GLB actually supports quite a bit more of the material tree. It's hard to say which one is better. It's really kind of your flavor of how much work you want to do, right? I prefer to do the FBX because then I can rebuild the tree the way I want. GLB isn't always perfect, but it gets you there pretty close. And so the next thing is your Unreal directory. This is where it's going to be saving the file inside of your project. So basically right now you have a base path. You can set wherever this is. Like, so if you have like an area that you want to save stuff, and then once you hit add, it will take the name of the object and add it to the base path. And that'll be like a folder inside of there. But you can also browse if you want. The thing with the browse is that this path doesn't exist yet. So it'll just bring you to the content folder. Unless it does exist, it will bring it there. So now you can go into your content folder that's inside, all because you're set up here. You pick where you want. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use this path that it creates for me. I'm going to export it. And it's done. So hold on. Before we go back, another important thing is make sure everything is zeroed out. Like, so your location 0, your rotation is 0, your scale is all at 1. Because like when you import and like these are all funny numbers, everything will explode. So the best way to do this is you go to Object, Transform, Apply, and then you do all transforms. Or inside of USync, I have something inside of Unreal Tools where you can pick which ones you want to apply and use that. So now we're done with this. All right, now that we're on Unreal, let's go ahead and import meshes. I'm going to have Nanite turned off. Import that mesh. I'm going to take a moment. And there's that file. And there it is. Let's go ahead and navigate towards it. So it is in meshes, bot pond, and boom. There it is. So I have the FBX as the one in it. It doesn't bring, if we look at the material graph. Oh, it's pretty messy, huh? Let's see. Yeah. So the thing it didn't bring in was the ORM map that I have. So that's occlusion, roughness, and metalness. So I just have to bring in that texture in here, and then it will be done. And the thing about USync is like every time you sync now, if you've made changes to materials, right, they don't, the actual material doesn't get changed ever again unless you delete everything in here. So if you right click, then delete, then re-import, it will rebuild the materials. But what will update as you go back and forth is material assignments. So if I assign a different material to different parts of it, if it's in here, it will use that. If it's not, it will create it again. So let's show some of the kind of features of this, right? So now that you have it here. So let's say I go to sculpt mode and I wanted to kind of mess with this object, right? Maybe somebody punched it. And now it's deformed. It's all messed up. I can go ahead and hit export again. Then sync the import meshes. And boom, there it is. It has been updated. So that's pretty sweet. All right, so now what you want to do is you want to add a custom collision to it, right? Because if we open this up, we show simple collision, it will have made its own thing, and it's not always the best. So let's go back into Blender. I'm going to add a cube. Let's reset its position. That pie menu thing I used, that's a special little thing I made here. In the documentation, you can read about the pie. It will make your life so much easier. So I'm just going to do a very loose approximation of what this looks like. You know, something that we can kind of understand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the mesh that I just made, shift click on the object, go to Unreal Tools. Oh, sorry. First Control P, and then Object Without Inverse, set parent. So now click on the parent, hit child to UCX. And now it's created the appropriate naming and copied the name of it and has turned it to wireframe so that you can still kind of work on everything that's here. Export it. Oh, I made a mistake. I have to wait for this to finish. So once you make a custom collision, you have to check this box down here, export collision UCX, and then hit export. That's all you got to do. Go back into Unreal and close that for now. Import meshes. Open it back up. Let's take a look at those simple collisions. And there you go. You'll see that the collision mesh that you've made has been added. And yeah, super cool with this. All right, so now I have this object that I want to sync with level sync for USync. There's a lot of syncs. Out of the box, this doesn't work. You have to do one special thing, which is in Unreal Sync or USync main panel, add asset name for export. And so what this will do is it'll create two custom properties. One's asset name and the other one is level export. And one means it exports, 0 means it doesn't export. And then the asset name is actually a reference to the object that lives inside of Unreal. And that's very important that this name that you have here is the exact same name that's inside of Unreal. And I'll show you in a minute how that works. All right, so let's go ahead and get into Unreal. First off, we're going to export the level JSON. That's done. Go into here, sync level. Boom, and there it is. The other important thing to understand about the sync level is you'll see the name of my level is called sample room. And this is also very important to how level sync works, is that the map name in here needs to be the same exact name there, because that grabs the associated little file to rebuild the scene. And if I go back into, if I'm in Blender, let me frame that. Let me duplicate this a couple times. Export JSON, go back in Unreal, sync level. And all of them sync up. And that's pretty nice and easy. And let me talk about how this is like a reference system, right? So we'll put them off to the side. And let's say I want to make a more performant version that lives inside of Blender. If I go in here and I do like a decimate, right? Maybe bring this down to like 0.1. Give it a moment. All right. Maybe even more. 0.01. Let's go crazy. Let's get an object that doesn't even make sense. All right, so it's pretty small now, or pretty decimated. Ooh, I should probably apply that. I just made my computer hang. Let's apply it. Too many polys. Okay. So now it has been applied. I duplicate it, and then I sync level. You will see that the meshes are exactly how you imported them, right? Because the way the USync level works, it's a reference to the object that lives inside of Unreal. And if you want to change it, you have to do the export, right, to change it. And then also, interestingly enough, since it's just a reference system, let's say I have this object here, right? And I look at its custom properties. So it's static mesh underscore box underscore 06. If I copy this and I change this one to that, this one to that, and this one, and I export, and I go back in Unreal, I sync the level, they've all turned into that other object. And I hope that this kind of really illustrates and makes sense that it's just a reference system when you're using the level sync. So you could have just like a box that represents, you know, the object that you want. And you could just have, you know, such a performant version of like the instance inside of Blender. Because it doesn't care about the mesh anymore. It only cares when you're exporting it out of here and inside of these. I can show you a little more. Let's go ahead and open up, reveal the project, and we go into USync. We go into the JSON. We look at sample room. And you'll see how it's all laid out. It's just a large file with the name of the object, where it lives in a collection, because it also builds folders too based off of your collections right here inside of Unreal. And then it gives the transform, the rotation, the scale, and then applies it into your Unreal scene. And so, yeah, that's super cool.